Good day. These are your Tribune highlights for Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. Brought to you by your Daily Bahamas headlines, especially for people on the go and those who are visually impaired. Leading the news today, Bahamians are being warned to brace for higher fuel prices. Retailers say rising tensions in the Middle East, particularly involving Iran, are beginning to influence global oil markets and could soon push local prices upward. Industry representatives say it may only be a matter of time before those increases reach consumers in the Bahamas. Retailers explain that even modest increases in global crude prices can quickly affect small island economies that depend heavily on imported fuel. Higher fuel costs could ripple through the economy, affecting shipping, airline travel, and the price of imported goods. Businesses and consumers alike are being urged to prepare for possible increases in transportation and energy-related expenses. In other national news, former Attorney General John Delaney has strongly condemned the shooting of a family dog by a corrections officer, saying the incident raises serious questions about judgment and restraint. Delaney pointed to the widely circulated video and suggested that greater training and professionalism are needed when officers respond to situations involving animals. Meanwhile, a widely circulated video showing an armed robbery has alarmed many residents. The footage shows a woman being held at gunpoint during a brazen robbery, and police say investigations into the incident are ongoing. In Grand Bahama, a town hall meeting about the future of the Grand Bahama Port Authority turned tense after Free National Movement leader Michael Pintard was reportedly heckled during the discussion. The meeting was organized to address issues surrounding the arbitration ruling involving the GBPA, but supporters of both major political parties attended, leading to heated exchanges. Turning now to the business section. One of the leading business stories reports that a Bahamian trustee is challenging a demand from the United States Department of Justice seeking the return of $27 million in trust assets. The case centers on whether U.S. authorities can force the repatriation of funds held in Bahamian trusts to cover alleged unpaid taxes. The trust provider argues that the trusts are governed by Bahamian law and that U.S. authorities cannot compel actions that violate the country's legal framework. Another business story focuses on the Rosewood Exuma development. Officials say the project initially failed to meet certain environmental standards, but regulators have since worked with the developer to bring the project into alignment with national requirements. Analysts are also warning that continued instability in global energy markets could affect tourism if rising fuel prices increase airline travel costs and reduce visitor numbers. In energy news, Michael Pintard says it is likely that the Bahamas power and light base rate will increase after the next general election, as the financial structure of the utility may require higher rates to remain sustainable. Prime Minister Philip Davis also addressed the dispute with the Grand Bahama Port Authority, saying the authority had been stripped of key assets by its owners, changing the balance of power between the government and the GBPA. In education and technology news, the University of the Bahamas has received a $1 million donation from SpaceX to support the development of a nationally owned satellite and strengthen science and technology research. Turning now to the editorial. Today's editorial is entitled Bracing for the Cost. The Tribune examines how rising global oil prices could affect the Bahamian economy. The paper notes that the conflict involving Iran has already pushed oil prices upward and warns that small island economies like the Bahamas are especially vulnerable to these fluctuations. The editorial explains that higher fuel costs can raise the cost of electricity, airline travel, shipping, and imported goods, meaning the ripple effects could touch nearly every sector of the economy. The paper stresses the importance of careful planning so the country can better manage external shocks, such as rising energy costs. In the letter to the editor, one writer reflects on the history of Freeport and argues that the real story of the city has often been overshadowed by myths and political narratives, and that the people who built the community deserve greater recognition. Another letter calls for improvements in civil service professionalism, communication, and leadership to strengthen public administration. Before we close, a reminder that you can purchase a copy of the Tribune or visit their website to read the full stories and many more in today's edition. These have been your Tribune highlights brought to you by your Daily Bahamas headlines. Enjoy your day.